Lindsay, beautiful day today. When do things turn back to the rain?
Yeah, you know, it's actually going to be the second half of the day tomorrow. So anything you've got going on tomorrow morning, while it really won't be pretty or sunny, it's not going to be super wet either. So the first alert kind of for the late afternoon. What you can't see on this track is that in between those forecast points, it is still expected to briefly strengthen to a Category 1.
Talking with the peach farmers here, they tell me there's several aspects of the weather they look at in addition to the temperature. They look at the amount of moisture in the air, the wind, and they much prefer a sunny day like this because the ground will hold more of that heat at night as opposed to a cloudy day. So this is good for them.
One cell that we have literally right over Center City, Charlotte, so you don't have anything else across any part of the viewing area right now. Go figure, what are the odds, right? So it is smack in the middle of Center.
Porch sounds like a good idea, but I probably want some ceiling fans.
That would help too.
At this point, it's like it doesn't even make a difference, does it really, if you've got a little fan going?
It's
I guess mentally,
Yeah.
it's mentally
like
it helps.
open the oven,
yes,
you know?
Exactly. It's like warm air blowing around. But we'll have a break as we get into next week. So high humidity, we're going to have a lot of clouds, and we're going to have the daily threat of downpours continuing right all the way through the weekend. It actually looks like this pattern sticks around through about Monday, and then from there we dry out through the middle part of next week. And taking a look at your double weekend, be heavy at times in pockets with temperatures falling through the 40s. A brief lull in the activity for later tonight and Saturday before round 2 comes through, and that's going to interrupt your weekend. We'll talk about the timing coming up. Your 7-day first alert forecast. Back to you. But an all-time record high, pretty significant. And yeah, the pattern is similar setup to what brings our major hot spells here. You get a big upper level ridge of high pressure that just sits and bakes, and it's the exact same pattern happening there that just kind of happened here over the last. Situate this off to the southwest so we can put our cone on here and perhaps have some of these communities that are in the path of this tornado warned storm pop up. Important to remember that even in a regular old severe thunderstorm, you can still have straight line wind damage even if it isn't necessarily rotating.
So I see this patch of ice over here, which you can visibly see, but what you can't see is this patch of black ice leading up to the patch of visible ice. This is why we call it black ice, right? So wiped out, that's my impact crater.
82 the high, which not only smashed the record high temperature, the old record for the date at 76, but we also just learned this also ties for a record high for the month of February. Center of this bullseye right here is where the European model thinks the center will be, which, by the way, is still in the cone of uncertainty. That's what it is there for. Is there anything better, though, than when you're trying to sleep and you can just hear
the rain? Yeah.
Oh, that is the best. Well, at least now we can actually see the cooler temperatures upstream, so that's an improvement, at least. A clear divide here between these air masses. Breaking out terms like 500-year flood, you know this is about as serious of a rain forecast and of a flood potential as we'll just about ever see around here. And these white lines here, these are pressure lines, and where the lines are more tightly packed and bunched together, that shows you where our wind field is the strongest. Huge batch of moisture available to be moving in, and unfortunately, since we have cold air at the lower levels, but this storm system from the southwest is bringing in warmer air aloft. This is leading to a classic freezing rain setup, but a big drop in the temperatures, of course, after sitting in the low 80s for most of this afternoon. All it takes is that wind shift and you will crash. There's one little one, second little bigger one, and then watch this at the end. Whoa, huge deluge. Again, this is all fortunately to the east of the city. Nothing worse than 30s and raining.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just rather snow at that point?
Amen.
I would, for
Amen
sure.
to that.
The good news is the weekend will be mild, so if you want to get your lights up, then you can do that this weekend without too much trouble. But we're going to start with the temperatures because it's really all about the numbers with this event. We know there's rain everywhere. We know the moisture supply is not a problem. It's the temperatures that we're going to be watching much more closely than the radar really with this event. So 34 is that boon number, 40s outside of there, and we're starting to see these numbers drop. They've fallen through the course of the newscast. 34 Beach Mountain there, Blowing Rock 38, 34 West Jefferson, and again, low to mid 30s there in Boone as well. So starting to see a little bit of pink here show up on the radar. So maybe you're starting to see some sleet mixed in with the rain. That could be a possibility, but again, you'd still need that surface temperature to be at or below freezing for that to be true freezing rain. Outside of there, we are just covered in green, wall-to-wall rain, and even though for most of us during the day today, it hasn't been a terribly heavy rain for the most part, You can't expect that to increase in intensity as we do head through the course of the night, because this moisture slug, it does have its origins over the Gulf. So a huge fetch of very moisture-rich air is being sent straight up the southeast and into our area. Of course, we've got that low-level cold air at the surface, so that's why we've got that ice set up for the higher elevations there. That winter storm warning for the northern foothills and the mountains, the rest of Burke, Caldwell, Alexander counties under that winter weather advisory. Now, we've also got the flood watch, which is pretty much the entire WBTV viewing area. So on top of the ice, we're also going to be dealing with another bout of actually heavy rain around here. So it is just going to be pretty yucky, to be blunt with it, really, through the night and through tomorrow morning. Again, we'll watch those temperatures at or below freezing for several hours between, say, about midnight and 7 a.m. or so. In the higher elevations. Outside of there, you're talking rain in mid to upper 30s. Can't completely rule out some brief sleet mixing in, but ground temperatures, road temperatures warm enough that that's not going to create any travel problems for the rest of us, where it will be 30s and raining. We're really only concerned with that freezing rain through daybreak. That's what creates the problems on the roads there for those higher elevations. Now, you'll see by mid-morning, temperatures come back up, and with that, the moisture is also starting to exit. So by late tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening's commute, you're going to be fine. There's not going to be any rain left at that point. So it's really the morning that we're going to be most concerned with. Now, as far as ice amounts, it's really once you start to get up to about 1/4 of an inch that you can start to have some problems. Your bridges becoming slick spots on the roads, and scattered power outages as well. And you're talking again about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch here where you see the pink shading show up. So again, really want to discourage travel up towards this way if you can at all avoid it during the overnight hours and through tomorrow morning. Now, for the rest of us, we're still talking about yet another 1 to 2 inch rain event, if you can believe it. So we've already had some flooding problems this week. We'll monitor for that as well going forward through tomorrow morning. There is the light at the end of the tunnel. Friday and the weekend back into the low 60s. We are back with prime time after this. Stay with us.